Hey, what's up YouTube? Mass Mechanics here. In our last video, we put our 6-liter in our C3. Finally got that all in. And now it's time to start looking at the EFI system. We're going to unbox that. It should also run the coils, so we don't have to worry about timing. We'll set up our accessory drive, get all that buttoned up, get the cooling system in there, and start wiring this thing up and get it fired. So stay tuned and check it out. Alright, here she is, our Corvette. So last video, we started to get the water pump straightened out. As you can see, I had those, put some threads in those heater hose lines because they were too close to the control arm. You can see how ridiculously close it is. And this is our rudimentary layout of our accessory drive. It's definitely a little tight, but we're going to make it work. It's not that bad. A little tiny bit of trimming on the radiuses of the corners of the control arm, but nothing that's going to affect it, so no problem there. We'll get those threaded bungs in the water pump, get that set up for the heater hoses, and we should be good to go. Got our EFI set up for our Corvette build, the LS Swap. This is supposed to be the unit that is for LS specific with the coil control, and will run a electronic overdrive transmission if I want to put that in down the road. Right now we're doing a 400, but let's take a quick peek in the box here. Harnesses, lots of wiring. They're nice and neat. That's good. Now we'll leave it in this little tray here. There it is, Retro LS EFI. We're going to be installing this on our Corvette. I already checked the hood height to make sure with the old carburetor that everything fit, and with a drop air cleaner base it worked, so we are in business. Farther in the box, got another tray of stuff, a little one. Looks like a little separator plate and some gaskets. There's a nice looking throttle body. And I believe this is the handheld. Let's see. No. This is the computer to run the coils, I believe. So we gotta find a spot to mount this. O2 sensor with a really short cable. Hopefully the lines are longer than that. This is a really thin feeling. Oh, this is for an O2 sensor setup. Okay, I gotcha. Probably gonna just weld a bung in the stainless header since we're going through all that hassle of making them. See what this is here. Temp sensor. Looks like your standard GM one. I believe I already have it in the motor. It looks like the exact one, but I'll throw this one in it anyways just because it came with it. Who knows? Not trying to get creative or reinvent anything. Just want to get it to run. Wire. I could figure out where the computer is. Here it is, the little handheld. There's a little handheld. So this goes in the car, gives you all the gauge readouts and all that good stuff. So that's good. This is a very nice unit. Looks very nice anyways. We'll see how well it works. Hopefully it works very well. Very nice. And we'll see with this. You got this little air gap here, but if you put the air gap across like I ground in the manifold, this makes it a little easier on it. Alright. That's a quick little unboxing of this, and I'm going to start putting it in the car. First, we're going to start mounting the throttle body. That way, when we do start running our harness, we'll know exactly where it needs to be lengthwise, and then we can mount our computer from there. So first, we got to get all this set up and get that throttle body on, and so we can figure it out. When I was unboxing, there is no separator. It's just really thick gaskets, and for some reason they gave me two, so now I have an extra. Alright, so we threw the gasket on. Now it's time to get this nice throttle body on. It's nice because all the sensors are already right attached to it when it comes. You're not trying to attach every single thing, which is cool. When you tighten these type of things down, including carburetors, you always want to crisscross tighten them. You don't ever want to just crank on them because they can crack and break, so be careful. Now we got to figure out where this is going to go. Alright, well here's that great big harness that we saw all rolled up. Cool thing is it comes with the relays and everything already, and fuses in a nice little block here. The problem is I don't know where I'm going to mount this big thing in this car. So what I decided to do was, it said that you could mount it on the firewall or whatever, but I've had experience with these things, unfortunately, and they never quite work out well when you mount them out here. They just do not like weather. Any of these guys. So, got this out of the way. This panel right here, which I took out recently anyways, do the heater core. And I gotta put the new speaker in, and what I did was right up here high, you got this guy right here. My radio has been screwed up since I've owned this car, so I took it out. I'm going to put a nice aftermarket that looks factory in, where you get to throw this thing away anyways. So here's the old speaker. It's blown out, goes right up in there. Get some new speakers, a new head unit down the road. Has nice tunes again, I guess. You won't be able to hear them anyways over this exhaust, but yeah, we're going to try to find a good spot to tuck them up in here. Well, after looking at it, I figured out that the transistor that I took out and the new computer are about the same size. So that's actually just sitting on the brackets from the old transistor. So now I'm going to make a nice plate so I can mount it solid and be good to go. So that's where she's going to be. And here's a quick rudimentary idea of where everything's going. I mounted the PCM here in a bracket I made from where the radio transistor used to be, because that never worked anyways. You got wires that are going to stay in the car right here, so they're already inside. Same with these, like the handheld, ground, key, power. This one's going to go down to the fuel pump in the back, but overall it's all tucked away pretty good. I'm just going to snake it down like this. I can tie it up right in here, and then I got to punch a hole right here into the floor, unfortunately, but that's the only way to get it through. And I really wanted to put this thing outside the car in the engine bay, but really there was no good way, being this is an AC car, and having to mount the PCM and all that other good stuff, there's just not really a good spot to put it out there where it wouldn't be getting rained on if it ever left outside or whatever. So long story short, I figured we can tuck it in right here. There will be room here if I had a speaker. You can see there is plenty of room for a nice speaker to go in here. It doesn't have one right now because the radio's never worked, and the speaker, the paper in it was completely falling apart, so it was useless. So just get rid of it. But yeah, so here we are. That's it. I mean, they have nice little mounting brackets here though for these things in the Corvettes. I appreciate that for sure. But yeah, so I used the transistor mount, made a little plate, bolted it all together. It was easy. Came out good. I'll still be able to run my vents because this will be pushed in once I tie everything up. That way I can get the vent to go through. And then the fuse block is right here. I still got to make a plate to put that. Probably going to tie into the bolts that are right here, and then make some sort of a plate to mount it like this. Up like this, so that way the front cover comes down all the way to here, and you won't be able to see them, but you can reach your head under there and look right at them. So that's pretty much how that's going to stay. Also, you got the heater controls in there, so you got to make sure you don't stuff anything up that way. Another reason I couldn't run it up higher. And then plus on these cars, fiberglass floor C3s, you got a lot of thickness here where they double it up as a plate. I think it's part of just like heat problems or whatever. So if you go up here, there's not much there. It's and then another cool thing with these C3s, I don't know about the later ones, but the earlier ones, you got a lot of room on top of the transmission in the tunnel area, because that's where your power wire and ground wire run from the battery in the back. So there's quite a bit of room there, so I could actually run all this big mess of wires through. I mean, they're all the way wrapped around everywhere, so it's a mess, but it's really not anywhere near as intimidating as it looks. It's just you got to take your time, and one wire at a time, and they're all labeled, so you really can't screw it up. But just take your time, and it's not too bad. So here we go. Alright, there it is, all mounted up. Everything's set up. Wires are all run. Tucked away nice. Looks good. Even though it doesn't look pretty right this second because the covers are off, but everything fits nice. Alright, so I spent some time on this thing. Got it all together, pretty much. I mean, obviously the front end's missing, and the cooling system and stuff. And I haven't put the pulley on the power steering pump, but I have enough done where I believe I should be able to fire it, and at least make sure. I even threw these crappy truck manifolds on for now, just to get it up and running with the O2 sensor for the fuel injection, just so I can get the baseline tune on the thing, and make sure everything's right before I go ahead and completely build the whole car out and then have something wrong and gotta take it all apart, you know? So it's always a good thing to get a test run going. There's a lot of wires here. It wasn't bad. Everything's labeled. You just gotta twist around and move around the harness and get it where you need it to be. I got the oil pressure sender for the original gauge, coolant temp sensor down there for the original gauge. Hopefully the charging one is hooked up somehow. I'm not really, they didn't trace out the system or anything. We'll see if it works. If not, I left this plug here because I'm sure one of those two wires is probably it off the alternator. Got the water pump on finally for the last time. I can clock this neck, just loosen it and turn it so I can get the lower hose where I want it. This was a big issue here, but now you can see there's plenty of clearance. That was a pain in the butt, but threaded them and then JB welded them in where I needed them. So they're good. Trim down the lines a little bit to get it all lined up. Another garbage truck manifold on this side, but amazingly they fit in the car pretty well. If I was going to do a cheap setup, this would be the way to go. I hear that there's like some Corvette ones or something that flow better or whatever, but these things I got for free. Like literally the guy at the junkyard, when I bought the heads, I had to take the manifolds off, and he's like, oh, you want those? I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's like, sure, here you go. So like the O2 sensor thing, I cut it below the O2 sensor, so if you were running a cheap setup, you could literally just throw a pipe on the end of the exhaust there and make your exhaust system. So swap wise you can do it. I kind of wanted to go a little bit crazier with this car's setup, but you can do it. Alright, let's bring you inside the car here. Hold on. There we go. Good, it's nice and dark so I can't see anything. Alright, now in here, it looks like a mess, but really it's not. PCM's up there, the bracket I made, all the wiring's there, runs through the floor up there. All these wires hanging here, all this stuff, that's factory. Like it sits like this. This vent goes on like this, and then it connects to the thing. So really it's pretty neat. I'm happy with the way it came out, and this clips on to the like kick panel thing that goes here. And then these wires I have just dangling. One's for a tack, so I can run the I guess 75 and later C3s. They had the tack that's electronic. This is a mechanical tack that didn't work anyways. So it worked for like a week when I got the car. And then once I got it running good, it just broke. So we'll see how many of these gauges work. The fuel gauge should work fine because I used the factory unit and cut the end off. I'll show you guys that in a little bit, the fuel setup. The water pressure, or water temp, I mean, should be fine. Oil pressure should be good. C3 clocks, they typically don't work. And the batteries, like I said, so hopefully speedometer is going to be fine because I'm using the same factory transmission. So we should be good to go. I had to open up that side to run the key on power for the fuel injection, which was really easy. So yeah, that's where we're at. It should be good to go. Hopefully I can get the thing fired up. So, under the car, here's our gas tank. Covering the fuel system, we got our sending unit right here. I had to trim the end off that had like the little barb, and then I was able to use this adapter here, AN. It slides over and it's like a compression fitting. Tie that into the AN line here. Go into our fuel pump. Now there's your ground, and then the hot wire comes right off the computer. So the harness has this wire in it. I didn't even have to lengthen it. It was the exact right length. As you can see, it still has the regular tag on it. So that was great. So then I ran the line up here, followed the frame, and kicked it up. Now I'll show you where it goes once I get out. But this is your return line while I'm back here. It goes in here, follows this line, then goes up over the frame, and goes into the old evap line. Now I have the factory return line way up there that you can't see, but that line was way too small to handle the return from the EFI unit. So that is now our air vent, and the air vent from the evap was like a 3/8 line. So I was able to use that over on this side as my return line port. So a little mixing and matching, but you got to problem solve this kind of stuff, and it really was easy. You just had to take a little bit of time and look at it, but it's not too bad to figure out. Just the way I got it to work was this way, and it worked out great. I didn't have any issues at all, no leaks at all. It works very smoothly, and I haven't pushed the horsepower rating on it yet, but so far the system's working. I'll show you a little more in just a second. Alright, so that's where we were. The pump is down there. I got some holders here so the line can't move. Yeah, I don't worry guys, I will detail the frame out and inside here. And as you can see, this is as rusty as the car was. I mean, you can pretty much just wipe it right off. The bare metal. Like, really, it was a great donor to work with. But yeah, I'll detail all this stuff out once everything's done. But I ran the wire in the loom there, and then you got your return line, feed line going there, and they go down the kick down. So now I'll move again, and I'll show you some more. Now for right here, you can see here's our Corvette, I believe C5 bypass style filter. You got your return line and your feed line going in that end, and then the feed line to the front is right here, hooked to this AN line, and that is sent all the way forward, and it goes all the way up into the engine bay. So that's where that goes. So it was pretty easy, really, because once I get to here, this is pretty much the only spot I could find to mount this where I wasn't afraid of it getting hit or pulled off the frame anywhere, because the car really doesn't have any good spaces for this sort of thing. So I figured I'd put it here because there's a little bit of a divot up here, so at least the frame will protect it now. Because I really wouldn't want something like this to get ripped off and have a massive fuel leak and something like this and then just be a fireball. So it's just not something I'm looking for. So I figured this would be a good spot. You got it protected here by the cross member. And yeah, I haven't finished painting everything yet. I just painted all the spots where I couldn't reach once the car's assembled. Then once I get it up on the lift, I can really spend the time in detail. But that's all part of the process of building. But yeah, so this is where I mounted the bypass filter. It has a ground wire right here that's attached. just for an extra ground. You can't ever have enough grounds on cars, especially ones made of fiberglass. So the more grounds, the better. So got one on this. Got your feed in return here, because you got this regulated at, I think, 58 psi, which the EFI unit is happy with, so that's perfect. And the pump puts out 60 something, so it all works out pretty good. Works good together. Then you got your feed to the front right here, running up, and then I got my wire here tied up, all tied all the way up, and it works pretty well. I mean, I have no issues with fuel at all, so that's good. So yeah, that's our fuel system. Then there's just one line into the throttle body style EFI, and that's it. So last but not least, here's our throttle body, and there's the AN fitting right off the side of the what would have been a fuel bowl. I guess it still kind of could be on the EFI unit, but that's right where it goes in. There's an AN fitting, and it attaches right to the line we made. So we're there. That's the whole system. Nice and easy, and it's clean and small, so you need it on a car like this where there's just no room. So that ties it up for the fuel system. Pretty simple. Alright, well, we got the interior almost back together. This whole side's done. You can see a little bit of the wiring coming down, but I think it looks pretty good. I'm happy with it, and really that's what counts. But anyway, so we got a few wires left here. We got our wiring that runs our handheld, which is right there. So I got to figure out a good spot to route that where I can put everything back together. And this wiring here is part of the factory car, as well as this light, so that's no big deal. These two wires I'm going to run over and leave them by the gauges here. So one is going to be for when I convert to the, if I ever wanted to convert to a speedometer. I'm just going to leave it over there with the end taped up. I'm probably never going to want to change it, but if I go to a 4L60 or 4L80E or whatever, then I will. And this one's a tack wire, and this tack is the old style. The early C3 ones had the tack that ran off the distributor. It had like a little gear on it, and it spun, and mine's been broken since we've owned the car. It never worked. The gears strip out on the distributor side, mostly, is what I've read and heard and seen. Anyways, I guess the one from a 75 and newer C3 is digital. So then I have to figure out whether I gotta use this face and the guts out of that, or if I can just use the whole gauge. I'm not sure how the color combo is and all that, just to make sure everything matches still. So I gotta fiddle around with that and learn some more to make sure that the speedo and the tack are the same, so it doesn't look like garbage in here, because I'm trying to build a decent looking car. So it's coming along great. Let me get after getting these wires back in where they need to go. Well, for now, this is where I'm going to put it. It's not too bad. It's somewhat clean looking. I can at least use the switch still, so that's good. And I can read all the gauges, so that's nice. And eventually, if I get this thing dialed in where I want it and everything's no issue, I can just tuck the wires away and take this piece off, because it doesn't need this handheld to run. This is just for monitoring and setting and getting everything straightened out. So once this is all taken care of, I could probably just get rid of it and have it look normal in here. But honestly, it doesn't look that bad, and to have an extra set of gauges is always a nice thing, especially ones that are a little more on point than this stuff. I mean, it's pretty archaic stuff at this point when you think about it, so having the newest, latest and greatest stuff, other than oil pressure, because I'm using the old sender for that, or the old style sender, I put a new one in, but I mean, other than that, everything is gonna be fine. So we'll see. This is how it's gonna be for now. I think it looks clean enough, and at least now I have another set of gauges I can read, and I can monitor it while at least I'm tuning, and we'll go from there. But that's the install of the interior. I got obviously a floor mat and get rid of all this junk. I just had my grill lighter in here because my butane torch, I ran out of butane for my heat shrinking I was doing when I did all the wiring. But that's what that is. Get all these tools cleaned up, get the carpet back in, or I mean the floor mat back in, and this interior is back together. Then on to the steering, and get the radiator in, and get the fan stuff wired up and set up. I got a whole nother steering deal coming, so stay tuned for that, and we'll get on that install. That'll be pretty cool, doing a conversion. Give me some more clearance on the oil pan. Plus, every single part of this factory power steering was leaking, and by the time you compare pricing wise, it's just, for me, a smarter way to go with the better stuff. So stay tuned for that. And as you can see, we're working on that stuff quite a bit. So I don't know if those fans are going to work. I think they're too thick. I'm going to probably have to go with a thinner fan, but got the shroud made, got the top plate made, and all that good stuff. So stay tuned for that. We'll get it all together real soon, and we'll have it on the road. Well, guys, I think I'm going to have to leave it here. The video is just going to get way too long if I keep going. I'll get another one out to you real soon. We got to do the power steering setup so we can get it to fire up. Go over the radiator stuff, get the electric fans in and wired, get the new air cleaner element, and we should be good to go. So just stay tuned, and I'll keep it coming. Well, guys, thanks a lot for watching. I'm going to keep going on this thing. I'm sorry I had to cut it short, but it's just getting too long. The next video I won't wait a week for. I'll get it out as quick as I can. We'll do the steering conversion setup. We'll go over the all the steering lines, all that, get the radiator in it, and I'll get it fired up for you so we can finally hear what it sounds like. And then we'll get it up to the big shop, and we'll start going on those nice side pipes. So please, guys, like, subscribe. You can follow us on Instagram or the Mass Mechanics.